Okay, folks, so hopefully that's given you an idea about searching and narrowing down information. And just to make you aware, this kind of searching with library search, the layout of the screen, how you refine it, how you work with your results, saving them and citing them and so on. This is how many of the databases are laid out. So if you are familiar with library search, you'll be better able to work with other sources because they're all kind of laid out in the same way. They'll all allow you to refine results. They'll all allow you to work with them in saving them or citing them and printing them and so on. Okay, so at this point, folks, what I'd like to do is move on and talking about the different types of information. So we've looked at searching, so let's have a talk about the different types of information. Okay. So other sources, so other material that you might use beyond the library, things like what we in the library probably...
Sorry, Rachel, sorry to interrupt you. Do you want to go back and start running the presentation again for that last bit? It's just we're seeing the slide, not the
Oh.
Do you know the
Sorry,
slideshow? So if you want to go back.
Yeah, apologies, folks. Yeah, thank you for that, Fiona. Let me just go back. And okay, folks, can you see that okay now?
Perfect.
Thanks for that, Fiona. Good to know. So, folks, other sources beyond the library. So what do we mean by this? It can be called in some circles grey literature. So what kind of things are they? There could be government reports. So if you're working in social sciences or education areas like that, it may be that there's government papers. You could look at Department of Education papers, see what's printed there that may be relevant. If you were in a science kind of field, you might be looking at experiments or patent documents, things like that. Within business, it could be you're looking at even private research that's being conducted by particular firms or places. So it's all that other information, if you like, that isn't available or not directly anyway, specifically through the library. Company reports, for example. If you're working within the field of business, company reports are a great way to find out about how companies operate, the kind of nitty-gritties, their revenue, their HR structure, all of that kind of information. So that's what we mean about other sources, materials and research produced by organisations outside of traditional commercial or academic channels. And annual reports, research reports, technical, all that kind of thing is included there. So that, depending on the kind of discipline you're in and the topic you're looking at, could be really relevant because those kind of reports can be really good. They give a practical focus to your thesis. Okay, moving on. What other kind of things? Scaling down your ideas, research carried out in this. Can I investigate this topic, but maybe on a different scale? If you're looking at things or areas that use data or statistics, then those kind of things, it's really worthwhile looking at those, kind of documents. As I mentioned, it gives a practical emphasis to your thesis. And again, it really depends on the kind of area you're working within, the discipline. There will be different kind of information that may be relevant to your particular thesis. Okay. And then, of course, having gathered all this information, this is the crucial bit. How do you decide what's relevant? Okay, so we talk about the 3 R's in the library. So there's relevancy, repetitive themes, and then re-evaluating your results. So the relevancy, you're scanning abstracts, or summaries of things, maybe book introductions, looking at the table of contents and chapter layout, preview pages. Maybe you're looking at the concluding or the last paragraph of something. Bibliographies, I would say, are really, really useful. If you come across something, whether it's a book, a journal article, or a thesis that is within your area or kind of related, go to the bibliography and see what has been read in order to come to the conclusions within that item, because very quickly that can give you a starting point for your own thesis. You can go off and then read all of these different items. And I would say that if you can find even a thesis that's vaguely relevant to your own, look at the bibliography, because it's really useful. And that can save you a lot of time and energy because it will identify the key authors in the area, the key kind of themes and concepts. Really useful. You could look at our mural, which is our Maynooth University research, academic research and academic library. It's a listing of all of the research that Maynooth has produced. You'll have things like theses there and also various lecturers and academics that any writings that they've done and made available through this you can find. So it's a really useful source for yourselves in doing your thesis. Having done all that, then you're looking to identify repetitive themes and concepts. So you'll note that certain themes will arise. So it's useful to be aware of these because this will help you within your own writing then. Are you aware of these themes and concepts, maybe to raise them? And then again, you need to reevaluate your results. So always you're coming back to your research question. How does this help me answer my research question? This is where you have to be careful. This is where you're the best judge. We can't in the library decide if it's relevant for you or not. You're the best judge. You're the expert in your particular field. So all the time making sure, even if something's really relevant, you think, oh, that's great, make sure that you're still relating it back to your original research question. Because if you can't, then unfortunately, you've gone down a rabbit hole. You might need to reevaluate, go back to the drawing board, all the time, come back to the relevancy. Okay. When again, looking at various websites or web type of resources you might come across, a really useful checklist is this here. And it just gives you an idea of evaluating whether it's relevant or not. So you'll think about things like the authority. So who's the author? Can you see who's running this website or this web resource? What's their authority? Have they qualifications in this particular area? Are they lecturers, academics somewhere? What's their affiliation? Is it a commercial thing? Is that the purpose? Is it to sell something? Or is it for education? Is there bias in it? How up to date is it? Are the links all up to date? That will all give you a good kind of platform for judging whether it's relevant or not. And if you can't answer all of those questions, I would say leave it alone. Maybe it's not the best source to use. So that's a handy checklist just for running through.